Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com.
The end goal is a little different for a farmer. What they want from this data is actionable advice. When do we turn on our water? When do we, go out and spray pesticide, that type of thing. For the researcher, it's more the raw data itself.
Farming isn't what it used to be, that's for sure. And thanks to some fancy drones being developed at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center, other industries here in town may also benefit.
The sky's the limit with the PheNode, really. It's essentially a plug-and-play sensor platform, so we've also received interest from smart highway programs who are interested in monitoring pollutants coming off of cars with air quality sensors on the PheNode.
I'm Sarah Fensky. This is St. Louis on the Air. And before we move on, I want to remind you that the biggest source of St. Louis Public Radio's funding comes from listeners like you. Because you value what you hear on St. Louis on the Air, donate today. Go to stlpr.org/donate. That's stlpr.org/donate. Nadia Shakoor of the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center has created a new product. It's called the PheNode. That's a solar-powered environmental sensor and phenotyping station for crops. The PheNode sensors and cameras take real-life measurements of everything from humidity to soil pH. And it gets even more high-tech from there. This past summer, Nadia won a $1.4 million federal grant to add an autonomous drone to the platform. It's called the FieldDock, and it just might be a game changer. And joining us today to talk about it is Nadia Shakoor. She is a senior research scientist at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center and also the CEO of Agrella Ecosystems. So Nadia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you're a plant scientist. What research were you conducting that led you to create the PheNode tool?
Sure. So we do a lot of field research in various crops. So the crop that I work in and specifically is a crop called sorghum. And so we go out into our fields and we take all sorts of measurements out in the fields using different pieces of equipment and sensors. And that's sort of how it all got started, was needing a piece of equipment that was versatile enough for our needs.
So this takes it down from having multiple different pieces of equipment. It basically puts it all in one?
Yeah, exactly. So, as new sensors are coming on to the market, which, these days there's new sensors coming online every day, it seems like. So as they're coming online, having a plug and play platform where you can take those sensors, put them on your system and test it out and see how they work, outdoors, and are they able to collect the data that you want? So that's how we all got started.
Was it hard to make this plug and play system? I imagine there's all sorts of elements you have to worry about. This isn't just something you're making for laboratory conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. As it turns out, making something that will work outside for months at a time in a field, it's also completely solar powered. It turned out to be quite a challenge. And so we definitely have been working for several years now. So we've been at it with the PheNode for over 4 years with various prototypes and testing different materials and such to make the most robust product we could.
So is this something that's now commercially available?
Yeah, so we finally finished our development and research. We had a lot of great partners testing our PheNodes over the last few years, and then starting in January, we're ready to start taking pre-orders. So it's been an exciting ride.
So I understand these PheNodes are actually being built here in St. Louis. How did that happen?
Yeah, so the way over the years, we've tried lots of different vendors, many international vendors, but it turned out, having engineers and expertise locally makes things move a lot quicker, and it's just a better deal all around. So we're working with Integrated Systems Engineering. They're here in the St. Louis area. Our fabricators are also in the greater St. Louis area, and it's just made quality control and being able to just go down the street and chat with our engineers as they're building the next version. Um,
Yeah, that's great that that happened to be here. I don't know if every city would have a similar setup and you just would have to find it there, or if this is unusual that we'd have that level of manufacturing that you'd need.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think we are pretty lucky in that aspect, and I feel very grateful that we were able to find these folks, as particularly at this point in development where things are, moving a little bit slower due to COVID, and so
Hmm.
having someone local and people on the team local is such an advantage for us.
So, as you said, you're releasing this in January, but I know you've already been using it yourself as you've been sort of working through all the issues and getting other people to use it
Sure.
as well. How has having it changed your research or changed the way that you're able to work?
Sure. So the PheNode is actually transmitting its data live. So we're able to, in real time, monitor what's happening outdoors and outside in our fields. Before, we're going out on a weekly or maybe a daily basis, gathering data manually by hand. Now everything is being transmitted, through the cell phone network or a Wi-Fi network up to the cloud and then onto our cell phones and computers back at the lab or now remotely as well. So it's really helped with that.
Hmm. So, who do you see as the ideal consumer for this as you get ready for its release?
Sure. So it was originally designed for research purposes, for crop science research. The sensors on the PheNode suite are very high quality sensors, things that are going to work for months on end, like I mentioned, outdoors and extreme elements. However, we've received a lot of interest from farmers as well, who are also interested in having robust technology on their farms. The sky's the limit with the PheNode, really. It's essentially a plug and play sensor platform. So we've also received interest from smart highway programs who are interested in monitoring pollutants coming off of cars with air quality sensors on the PheNode. So really, it's a very versatile platform designed for crop research, but really, it's up to the consumer how they want to use it.
Boy, that's exciting. And to think they could use it for pollution and all these other uses. We did get a question from one of our listeners when we put this out there on our St. Louis on the Air Twitter that we were going to be talking to you today. Marie wrote, do the people at the Danforth Plant Center know that internet and cell service is very poor in many rural farming small counties in Missouri? Is that at all an issue that you had to anticipate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when we deployed our prototype versions over the last few years, they've been in some very remote locations. So we've had have a number of measures that we've put into place, including things like global SIMs, which will pull from any network that's available, to storing the data locally, where someone can go out once a week and pull it all off all at once. So, but certainly, I think remote areas that don't have network kind of connectivity can be a challenge.
And it sounds like a challenge you're working on. That's great to hear.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to forget to talk about the part of this that originally caught our eye when we heard about this. And this is the part involving drones. And I know drones are now everywhere, but
Sure.
they still feel very exciting and high tech to me. And I understand in July, you landed this $1.4 million grant for this automated drone called the FieldDock. So how would this go hand in hand with the PheNode?
Sure. So the PheNode is a standalone platform. It sits out in the field, gathers data from that particular area. One of the concerns and interests that folks have in research as well as for farming fields is being able to get full coverage of their entire field, their entire plot. It could be many acres, and drones are perfectly suited for that. And another concern is, with drones, you have to have a pilot or you have to have someone out there who is capable of flying the drone. And so with the FieldDock is proposing to do an autonomous drone built into the system. So the drone, checks the weather with its kind of PheNode capabilities and then launches once a day, or depending on, the type of data coverage you want, flies the field, comes back to the FieldDock itself, drops its data, where then it can be again uploaded to the cloud. So it's sort of a autonomous platform that sits out in field itself.
We're talking to Nadia Shakoor. She's a senior research scientist at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center, also the CEO of Agrella Ecosystems. She's telling us about her two new tools, and that is the PheNode and then the FieldDock, which adds this whole drone component to it. Nadia, as a plant scientist, had you ever used drones before you found yourself getting into this FieldDock work?
No, I mean, well, we have a lot. I'll take that back. We have a lot of collaborators who do use drones in agricultural research. There's a lot to be gathered by flying a drone equipped with really nice sensors over a field, and that type of work has been around for a while now. So yes, I have been working with folks that are doing it, but me myself, no. This is the first time really diving into flying a drone and having one.
So was it fun? I mean, it feels like this kind of adds a level of excitement to, it's a fun technology. Did you get to sort of experience the joy of, oh, hey, look what I'm doing with my drone?
Oh, absolutely. They are really neat pieces of equipment, and they're fun to use, and there's a lot of potential there that we're really excited about.
Well, as you mentioned, there's already a lot of people using these in the agricultural space, and there's a lot of farmers that fly drones manually. How does having an automated one like this change the game?
I think it's just very, it's one less thing that you have to do, it's something that you can just set a schedule and manage your farm using just that automated kind of aspect of it. It takes time. It takes someone with, licenses and such to fly drones and skill. So taking that out of the equation, I think, is both a time and money saver.
In your experience, do farmers tend to be pretty open to these types of innovations?
We've always gotten really great interest from farmers. Again, as a researcher, all of these tools were designed from a research perspective. How can we better improve breeding and better monitor crops for breeding purposes? However, as we've been developing them at the Danforth Center, we've had just a tremendous amount of interest from farmers who are also interested in having similar type technologies. The end goal is a little different for a farmer. What they want from this data is actionable advice. When do we turn on our water? When do we, go out and spray pesticide, that type of thing. For the researcher, it's more the raw data itself and using that in the analysis portion of their programs.
And when you talk about these drones being out there collecting this data, how long can they stay out there?
It really depends on the outcome. So the whole system is designed to be solar powered, and so we're still kind of working out all of the aspects of it. But if you want to capture multiple acres at a really high coverage, or do you want to do a quick pass flying at a higher altitude, you can get more land, and you can be up in the air a longer time. So I think there's going to be a trade-off there in terms of flight time, but probably between at least 15 to 30 minutes. Is kind of what we're shooting for at the moment.
Yeah. So this FieldDock, I understand you're going to launch the PheNode in January. What stage is the FieldDock at right now?
Yeah, so the FieldDock just got started. So in July is when we officially got going on this project. Luckily, a lot of the back-end work that we've developed with the PheNode will be useful for the FieldDock project as well. However, the autonomous drone component is something that's not a part of the PheNode system right now. So that's a lot of work at the moment, and we're pretty full steam ahead on that.
Okay, so could this be like a matter of months, or it's probably more going to be years?
I think so. So probably the latter. So we're working on it right now, and we'll likely have prototypes in the field by the end of next year, and then we'll see from there. So.
And you told our producer that people already have ideas for FieldDock that go far beyond what you originally intended. What are some ways people are thinking they might be able to use this thing?
Sure. Yeah. So one of our farmer partners, actually, he will have a prototype next year in his field, and he immediately was like, "Can I use this to monitor my livestock as well as my farms?" And so that's something, again, as a plant scientist, would have never thought about. And so we're really excited about that prospect, and are kind of digging into what he needs and how the FieldDock could accommodate that.
Yeah, I wonder how the livestock will react to drones. Maybe I'm being naive thinking that they're not already familiar with drones in this brave new world we live in.
No, I think that's a really good question. I can't imagine just a drone coming down as you're grazing about.
Yeah. I mean, man, it's interesting. My grandfather was a farmer, and I think about just how it would blow his mind to think of some of the innovations happening in this space. It just seems like it must be all so different than what he was doing back in the 1940s. I mean, in the work that you do at the Science Center, do you sometimes feel like innovation is just speeding things up in this exponential way at this point?
I do, absolutely. I think it is, and I think it's important that it is. We definitely need that in order to, feed the world. We need to have those sort of exponential improvements in our cropping systems.
It sounds like you've got a great job. I mean, both you're able to innovate and follow through on these ideas that you have, and at the same time, it feels like you feel a deeper purpose there, that this isn't just about creating technology for technology's sake.
Absolutely. I think that's why I'm there, and I think a lot of the folks at the Danforth Center really feel a connection to the science that's happening there, is that sort of greater purpose, and how can we apply the science that we're developing and working on in the lab and use it towards a greater good.
Nadia Shakoor, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com.